As Shannon indicated, I'm Sid Haksar, and I lead our construction strategy at Autodesk. It's great to be here today, and prior to commencing my presentation, I'd like to acknowledge the AMCA on the continued effort for the past 11 years to establish BIM MEPOS as the leading industry standard for the specialty trade contractors. I'm joined here by my colleague, who I will introduce in a minute, who will be helping advance the slide. Next slide, please. This is the obligatory safe harbor slide, probably the least exciting in the presentation, which really highlights that we might make forward-looking statements during the course of this presentation. These statements are based on our current understanding and do not reflect guarantees, and as a result are subject to change. So with that out of the way, next slide, please. Let's get started. So it is a pleasure to be with you all today and to have the opportunity to introduce these fine gentlemen that comprise our strategy team. And as you can see, we are a truly global team with presence in EMEA, APAC, and North America. Many of you might be aware of Sumit, who was the prior executive director of the AMCA, and now I have the pleasure and privilege of working closely with him. A couple of other folks on my team, Sunil. Sunil came to us from our most recent acquisition of Pipe, where he was the co-founder and former CEO. And he supports our North American strategy. Additionally, we've got Matt Keane, who leads our business out of EMEA and also joined us about 11 years, I should say, yeah, roughly around that time frame, coming out of construction. So he brings with him general contractor experience out of the UK. I've had really the good fortune of meeting some of you separately over the past 8 months. But for those that don't know me, a little bit of my background might be helpful. So as I indicated earlier, I lead strategy for our construction business, and I report to Jim Lynch, who heads up our construction business, or Autodesk Construction Solutions. Prior to taking on this role, which was in mid-March, I spent the past 7 years heading up corporate development for our AEC organization. In that role, I was responsible for both our M&A and investment activities. And suffice it to say, the last 3+ years have been a tad bit busy with the acquisitions of Assemble Systems, PlanGrid, Building Connected, and as I said, most recently, Pipe on the construction side. In addition to that, I was responsible or played my part in the acquisition of Spacemaker on the generative design side, and then Innovise, that really does hydraulic modeling for a water infrastructure business. We also made a couple of investments last year that included Origo and Bridget, which we will discuss later in the presentation. And then lastly, a little bit of myself. I'm based out of Boston, which has been home for me for the past 12 years. Before we get into the presentation, really, I think my objective is to provide some insight into how the strategy group really supports the broader ACS organization. So it's a little bit of a sneak peek into the inner workings within Autodesk, highlights certain macro and operational challenges that are impacting the construction industry, a lot of it which you are well aware of, talk through some of the key trends that we're seeing, provide an update on the state of the VC and M&A market, for construction tech, and finally, how we think the industry is evolving within our strategy group. Next slide, please. So as we think about our mandate, it's really built upon 4 pillars. The first one is shaping strategy. And by that, I mean, we are responsible for the 3-year strategic planning within our organization. And as part of that, we're not only looking at the here and now, but we are looking out into the future to see some trends, technologies, how they will impact the industry, how they will impact our customers' business. We're also looking at broadening our footprint beyond the current personas that we address today. We are at the same time looking at broadening our boundaries from North America to overseas and in specific geographies. So that's really on the shaping strategy front. The second pillar, as the name suggests, is really around special projects that are more of a near-term in nature. That our team gets involved in. The third pillar is really around evangelism, And this is talking about the Autodesk Construction Cloud story to our customers at trade events and such like. And then fourthly, near and dear to my heart still is really around M&A activities and investments as well as partnerships. We are by no means done acquiring companies, as we believe that we will not build everything natively. We do appreciate and understand that there are solutions that are best in class. Some of the acquisitions we did were best in class solutions. So we believe that we need to be outward looking, and we will continue to look at solutions that our customers really are championing as well. Next slide, please. So when I took on this new role, leading strategy, one of the things I challenged my team was that we needed to get more engaged with our customers. And as part of that, we developed a customer outreach program. And that really involved really understanding our customers' pain points, understanding their businesses, understanding how they even use our products and what they like and what they don't like, really within a very frank and candid setting. And so as part of that, we've had over 60 plus conversations, discrete conversations with companies in the US and EMEA and APAC, of which we've had about 23 plus conversations or 23 conversations with specialty trade contractors. And if your name is not on this logo slide, rest assured we will be reaching out to you over the next several weeks, because we do believe that this is really critical to how we really understand your workflows, your business, and so we can help build, at the end of the day, better product. At the same time, I'd like to also call out that, and I'm happy to call out that on the 1st of November, we announced a memorandum of understanding with BESA, the AMCA's sister organization. And this just goes to show that we will continue to engage with the right trade associations to really advance the work that they're doing and for the betterment of the industry as a whole. We will at the same time look to do a lot more with the AMCA going forward. And that is something that is really exciting to us. And one final piece I'd like to just add on this particular slide is we have started engaging in workshops with STCs. We recently launched a workshop in the US with the ENR 600 customer base to really understand their business, their workflows, their use of Autodesk technologies, the challenges and what they're looking for from Autodesk as a partner. We would like to replicate that in the ANZ market as well. So stay tuned for that. Next slide, please. So this is something I'll quickly touch upon. I think a lot of this is near and dear to your hearts as well, and you're experiencing this in real time. But as we think about macro trends impacting construction, we think of it across three vectors. The first is really persistent industry pressures. This has been caused across multiple fronts. One is acute labor shortages. To give you some perspective, in the US, there is research has been done to show that over 50% of the labor force is going to retire by 2031. This is a big number already for an industry that is plagued by acute shortages. I think we also know that in Australia, unemployment is at an all-time low. Finding skilled labor is extremely challenging for the construction industry. Couple that really with disrupted supply chains and rising material prices. It's just causing tremendous amounts of anxiety, pressure on head contractors, on specialty contractors. So this is just something that the industry is going to have to move forward from. The second one is really COVID-19 impacts with job site shutdowns, the stops. It's obviously caused a lot of instability. And we aren't quite out of the dark yet, but things are looking a lot better as we make our way out of it. And finally, what we're seeing is really an increasing demand for new project types and construction methods. If anything came out of this, was the need to do more offsite fabrication. While job sites shut down, those that were doing offsite fabrication were able to continue building in a controlled setting. And I think that has not been lost upon the industry, and we're seeing more and more contractors adopt these new methods and means of doing construction. At the same time, construction around office buildings, that is and leisure and hospitality parts of the industry, those are still seeing some amount of softness, while at the same time, data centers, distribution, warehouses are starting to see an uptick, which has continued through the course of the pandemic. That said, on the technology front, we're seeing some very interesting trends. One is the transition from point solutions to platforms. When we talk to customers, the one thing that they have been very unanimous about has been, as they call it, app fatigue. There's just way too many point solutions that are out there, which is causing them tremendous amounts of churn as they think about capturing data and making sense of that data. So there's been a natural move towards a platform, an open and integrated platform, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The second big trend we're seeing is there's the massive influx of capital coming in from the VC industry as they look to put money into an industry which is arguably ripe for disruption. And then at the same time, there's a lot of M&A activity happening, and as strategics like ourselves are looking to consolidate other solutions. And then finally, we're seeing more growth in data analytics to drive better decision making. We generate a ton of data in our industry. However, every project tends to be bespoke because we aren't able to leverage those learnings. And so there's an increased reliance to have out-of-the-box analytics, because as we all know, construction companies don't have the ability to hire data scientists on staff. I mean, they are expecting us as the providers of software to make that self-serve and easy to consume. Next slide, please. This is a slide which I find very fascinating, and I tend to show this in a lot of the meetings that I have with customers. This really is a study that was done by Box.com, and it just shows the flow of data across 5 industries. As we probably all know and appreciate, construction is the most collaborative industry. However, at the same time, if you look at this particular slide, it will tell you that it is also the most fragmented industry. This basically shows the data fragmentation that exists. Next slide, please. And this fragmentation comes with a cost. And specifically, as we think about this cost, we can look at it in a couple of ways. One, in a research or study done, it showed that 35% of time is wasted on non-optimal activities done by teams. And this could be simply as responding to an RFI, just because the information wasn't available at the right time, at the right place. So things that can be avoided definitely help. And you'll see why we think we're in a good position to help solve some of that. The second piece that's really, again, quite staggering is about $280 billion is spent on rework costs annually. Again, caused by really poor project data and communication. And then finally, one of the stats to me, which is really staggering, is that 96% of all data goes unused in the engineering and construction phase. And as I articulated previously, it leads to then every single project literally being bespoke, and we aren't able to leverage prior learnings to drive better future outcomes. Next slide, please. That said, it's not all doom and gloom by any means. I think there's been advancement in some foundational tech, which is really driving transformation of our construction industry. And things like technologies like BIM, which are really becoming more and more mainstream, are helping drive that progression. At the same time, as we think about AI and ML, helping solve some of those, and automation helping solve some of those labor shortages, are being increasingly adopted and used. We are also seeing a natural move towards digital twins. I think that is something with Autodesk and Tandem. We understand that you need to start capturing information and having a live model versus creating a digital twin right after the fact. So our goal with digital twins is to have that digital twin evolve right from the concept of design all the way through construction, ultimately to handover. So these are some of the technologies that we think are really helping advance our industry. Next slide, please. I love to say this time is different, the 4 most expensive words in English, but I do believe that we are in an unprecedented state of alignment amongst multiple stakeholders, from owners, designers, head contractors, and subcontractors, which is really helping advance our industry forward. And part of this is based on 3 areas. One is really around adoption. So we're seeing adoption of technologies, as I indicated, BIM technologies, cloud and platform IoT is becoming more prevalent on the job side. The use of mobile is definitely prevalent. And the other interesting aspect is we just are getting more of a digitally native workforce that's coming into the market, demanding newer technologies and newer ways to do the work that was done in the past. So that's kind of really helping drive it. At the same time, there's really belief in certain concepts, whether it's industrialization of construction, digital twins, lean principles, and so forth. So there is that general belief, and there isn't as much learning that needs to be imparted to make people believe that these things actually work or these concepts work. And then finally, regulation, rather than being a headwind, is actually really helping drive, again, our industry forward, be it from a safety standpoint, decarbonization and net zero emissions. So we are looking to do more with less and be more effective and efficient with the materials that we're using. And then just data standardization, I think, is just helping as well. So we feel very excited about where the industry is headed over the next 3 to 5 years. Next slide, please. At the same time, as we think about it, the construction tech industry is at an inflection point as well. And as I previously mentioned, there is an ongoing evolution from point solutions to platform. As a result, we also, with the money that's being poured into the market, there's VCs are really understanding, are appreciative of the big opportunity that exists with digitalization or digitization still in its early phases. And so there's more investment coming in, and there's more M&A activity as we, as well as our competitors and peers, are looking to acquire best of breed solutions. And I'll get into each of these momentarily. Next slide, please. So this slide probably helps sum up some of the things that we've been talking about. So customers at the end of the day are looking to standardize in an open and integrated platform. And the reason for that is, based on a study, 25% of construction companies use 5 or more different software applications for the same process. So just think about that for a second. That is one of the main drivers of why data silos exist. You can't standardize. And so that is driving app fatigue and the need to migrate to a platform. At the same time, only 6% of construction companies use software that integrates with each other. My guess is this number is actually probably lower than 6%, but it just talks to the systemic challenges that contractors are facing and the things that they need in order to drive more efficiencies into their processes. The next slide, please. At the same time, there's a significant increase in the number of construction tech startups globally. As you can see, from 267 startups in 2018, we're over 1,500 today, which just shows there's a lot of innovation happening in our industry, which is both great, but at the same time, it causes probably a lot of challenges for all of you as you have to figure out which is the next solution that I need to adopt, deploy, and scale within my organization. Next slide, please. This talks really about the investment that's pouring in. As you can see, our industry has seen a 6-fold increase in investment over the past 6 years. In 2021, actually, over the last 4 months, we've seen over $400+ million go into investments into private companies. So this growth rate isn't going to stop anytime soon. What's also really interesting is what was once the realm of dedicated VC funds that were focused primarily on the built environment, that is being opened up to generalist VC funds that are coming in and saying, well, this represents a great story. The underlying investment thesis is very attractive. And so there is more money that's getting poured into the market, into construction tech startups. A little known fact, which we don't talk about too much, is that Autodesk is the most active strategic when it comes to construction tech investments. This is just a smattering of companies that we've invested in. So 2020, we invested in, as I indicated, Origo. Origo provides a solution for public sector owners to manage their capital planning and their construction management needs. So they, in the US, have focused on the departments of transportation, as well as cities, municipalities, and so forth. Bridget, on the other hand, focuses on resource planning And so think of this as really identifying and capturing people within your company with their relevant credentials, experience, and making sure that the company, the contractors know when they win a project, whether they have the ability to staff the project appropriately. What we found out was that aspect of resource planning today is done primarily in spreadsheets and on whiteboards. And Bridget has looked to digitize that process. We've got a couple of other companies that we've invested in, SmartVid, which is now being rebranded as New Metrics, which uses computer vision to track job site safety. So our job here is to continuously push the envelope, identify companies that are doing some unique things and that are being leveraged by our customers to help grow their business. Next slide, please. At the same time, we're seeing, as I indicated, a lot of M&A activity from the strategics of the past 5 years. And in fact, over $10 billion have been spent over that time. As you can see, we have had our share of that pie, having made the following acquisitions of Assemble, PlanGrid, Building Connected, and Pipe. And what's really interesting is not only are our direct competitors acquiring assets, but we've got companies that are in the building controls segment, like a Schneider Electric that acquired RIB to move from really a hardware-centric model to more of software as well. So we're seeing not only our direct competitors, but adjacent competitors trying to come in there and look to acquire software companies. Next slide, please. So as we've spoken to our customers, these are the 6, I'll call it 5, coupled with one more. These are the 5 areas that have been broadly mentioned as important to them, right from winning work to cost, quality, schedule, health, safety, and environment. And the 6th piece is really, having a really strong workforce. I think those, without a really strong workforce and a good culture, the top 5 really don't mean much. So as part of that, as we think that through, next slide, please. We are also hearing how the market is really evolving from a software standpoint. So if you think about it today, majority of where the dollars are being spent by companies, by contractors, is moving off of pen and paper to software as a service. The more progressive companies like yourselves are really wanting to move from software as a service to really predictability as a service. And to get predictability, you need data. And to get data and make the most efficient use of data, you need to be standardizing on an open and integrated platform. So as you can see, there's this change that is happening with the goal towards the holy grail being optimization as a service, where before you start a project, you can optimize for certain outcomes. So as we think of the market today, the majority of the construction industry is still moving from really the analog to software as a service shift. Next slide, please. Well, if you just zoom out a little bit, because this is where it gets interesting, is, Autodesk is familiar and known for AutoCAD or CAD, and over the last 40 plus years. In early 2000, we attempted to disrupt ourselves by acquiring Revit and making our foray into building information modeling. And fast forward to today, where we are, we believe that the next paradigm is really going to be around connected construction. And what does connected construction mean? It's connecting people, it's connecting data, and it's connecting workflows. So I think we believe that we are best suited to deliver on that vision. Next slide, please. And so if you think of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and you may or may not have heard about it, but the evolution really came about with the acquisitions in construction that I alluded to earlier. And as part of that, when we first acquired these companies, the first objective was to continue to invest in their champion features that made them so lovable by their customer base. And so that's the first thing that we did, continue to invest. At the same time, what we wanted to do was to drive meaningful integrations between the various products that we acquired. And so we've spent a lot of time doing that, so that at the end of the day, we're not presenting a set of discrete applications to our customers. But the holy grail and the ultimate goal was really around unification, to really build a unified platform where all these champion features come together with a single login, really for a seamless adoption across the full digital building lifecycle. And so, as you know, we launched the Autodesk Construction Cloud with Autodesk Build at the start of this year, and we are continuing to add more and more capabilities and functionalities into that platform. And the goal here is to really connect all the way from design, plan, build, and operate stage of the life cycle. Next slide, please. At the same time, we do believe that we can't do this all by ourselves. And hence, the reason for us to be really thinking about developing APIs, being API first, and having a really rich ecosystem of partners. And so if you think about it, we have built up a robust ecosystem of third-party applications. They number over 200 plus today, and we are continuing to invest in our app store and our app ecosystem. So the goal here is, if you like a particular product, you're using it, we want to make that experience for you as frictionless as possible. Are we there yet? No, we're not, but we're getting there. We understand it. We're hearing it loud and clear from our customers, and that's where we're spending our time investing as well. Next slide, please. So to kind of sum up in terms of the strategy, if you think about it, what are we going to be doing over the next few years? I think one is breadth and depth of products. We're going to continue to invest in our platform. Into the Autodesk Construction Cloud. You're going to see a lot more effort and focus going there. We're going to look to expand our footprint, and that could be not only geographic footprint, it can also be increasing our presence for subcontractors, for specialty trade contractors. To be candid here, we began as a company really focused on general contractors or head contractors, and over time, what we did was, with the acquisitions, we got more and more entrenched with the subcontractor customer base. And so as we think about our long-term growth plans, we definitely believe that the subcontractor segment is one that is going to be very core to us going forward. Obviously, when I talked about expand footprint, it's geographic expansion as well. And so we look to go into places like Australia, New Zealand. We're looking at other tier 1, tier 2 countries in EMEA as well. And then finally, driving product adoption. I think it's very important. The first two, again, really don't mean much if our products aren't loved. And so for us to ensure that the products can be utilized, understood, and our customers are well trained on them is going to be a very critical aspect for it. So we're investing heavily in our training, in our self-serve capabilities, and with the end goal of driving product adoption. Next slide, please. And then finally, really partnering with you, I think, given this audience. So we think about it really twofold. One is really product focused. So we really want to address the key gaps that are required, for customers like yourselves or companies like yourselves, and that are lacking today in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And so we are very open and highly encouraging of the feedback that we get. At the same time, we really want to enhance the desktop to cloud experience, so you can move data from design to construction without having to do manual entry, and make that process as seamless as possible. The way we think of it is, we want you to start Autodesk and stay Autodesk, and that is kind of our mission here. And then finally, increasing our investment in data federation. You may have heard of an initiative, a very exciting initiative that we launched at Autodesk University titled Bridge. And here, what our intent is to ensure that that our trade contractor customers have access and agency over their own data. So you're not operating within a head contractor's instance, and then you lose that information for your needs, for your own audit trail perspective. So I think this is an area. It isn't an easy task. It is definitely a complicated technological endeavor, but we are spending a lot of money and resources understanding this problem, and we will spend time with customers like yourselves and companies like yourselves and really understanding how we can really nail this problem. So stay tuned, and obviously, to the extent that you want to participate in this, we very much look forward to your views and support there. On the go-to-market side, as I said, we're looking to bring more purpose-built offerings for subcontractors. We're going to support customers with training, learning, and development. We've been hearing that quite a bit, that we need to do more. So that's an area that we're focusing on. And then finally, as I indicated previously, we really want to drive more collaboration with the subcontractor community here in ANZ. We're doing stuff in North America, but we really think there's a great opportunity to work closely with you. And then finally, last slide, if I may, as we think about it, we are preparing for the construction company of the future, which is why we're doing all of this. Our goal is that, or our belief is that over the next 3 to 5 years, your business will be fundamentally different than what it is today. You all will be data first, the increasing reliance on data. I think sustainability will be very important, a key component for you to also win jobs and actually, given the amount of waste that our industry generates, to do more with less. I think increased automation, as I indicated, labor shortages, I want to drive that. So you're going to see more automation prevalent both in the office as well as on the job site. And then new business models. As you think about getting more and more involved in facilities management and operations, I know a lot of you already do that today, but I think as you think about your businesses, how do you drive more of a recurring revenue model versus being more project centric is going to be something that I'm sure all of you will be thinking through. And then I'll sum up with a favorite quote of mine. It's from Mark Reynolds. He's the CEO of Mace Construction. They're a head contractor of the UK, and he sums it up best when he says, "We are a sustainability and data company. We just happen to do great buildings." So this is their mission, their motto. This is what they're living by, and so I think this pretty much sums up how we think our customers are thinking about the future. And we want to be there lockstep with them as they evolve their business and provide them with the capabilities that can help them get there. So with that, I will close out my presentation. Thank you for the time here.